The Durban Declaration and Programme of Action is not a universally agreed document, contrary to the claims of universality heard here. The United States and Israel walked out of the Durban Conference before the adoption of the Declaration as a matter of principle and as a direct result of their strong objection and aversion to the anti-Semitism, xenophobia, and intolerance that was manifested during the conference proceedings, as well as in the Declaration itself. It is a matter of fact that the Declaration singles out Israel as a target of unique and discriminatory criticism through its erroneous determination of who constitutes a victim of racism. Canada also rejected the Declaration as a simple consensus document, declaring that Canada disassociates itself from all text directly or indirectly relating to the situation in the Middle East. The representative of the Organization of the Islamic Conference stated yesterday that the conference should not turn into an anti-Semitism exercise. There is, however, more to this statement than meets the eye. The representative of this very same OIC state said in the Human Rights Council's 6th session in September 2007, and I quote, "Islamophobia is also a crude form of anti-Semitism," thus rejecting the well-established definition of anti-Semitism as the hatred of Jews and refusing to acknowledge its real victims. Similarly, OIC's stress on contemporary manifestations of racism is not an acknowledgement of the major form of contemporary anti-Semitism for which they are largely responsible, namely the demonization of the State of Israel. The very first day of the first substantive preparatory session of the Durban Review Conference was almost completely spent on an attempt to refuse accreditation for a Jewish Canadian NGO that is unashamed of its support for the democratic State of Israel. This was despite the fact that the Secretariat recommended accreditation and the NGO requested in writing to receive Iran's specific objections in advance of this session and got no response. Therefore, this committee's decision to delay consideration of their accreditation until this session is half over is just one more example of the stranglehold that double standards and discriminatory treatment of Jews has over everything Durban. Far from reassuring prospective participants that the Durban review process will not become a forum for Jew hatred, manifested either as intolerance of individual Jews and Jewish organizations or as the demonization of the Jewish state, yesterday's proceedings and the statements just made by Algeria and Syria have reconfirmed that Durban 2 will be a repetition of Durban 1, and states genuinely interested in combating the scourge of racism and xenophobia ought to draw the appropriate lessons now for funding and participation.